Hey, y'all. We are back with another Igniting Ink Live. I am super excited to be sharing space with you all. And of course, we have the amazing future author, Sister Resistors, Birds World Publishing community here with us to talk about so many different things today. But you all already know what it is. If you are joining us right now, make sure that you are letting us know that you are here in the chat. I already see 11 of y'all already here. Let's go. Let us know who you are. If you can hear me and you can see me, make sure you type yes in the chat because look here, technology sometimes fails. And I want to make sure that y'all can hear me. I got a microphone set up. I'm here to support my dear friend, Kathy Wong. Let's go. Hi, Julie. It's really great to see you here. I see we also have Cassie in the building. Definitely let us know where you are coming from. If you all do not know who I am, we are going to get to know each other really, really well. And I'm going to get the opportunity to have everyone here also introduce themselves. But if you don't know who I am, it's your girl, Heather Bird here, international award winning writer, your favorite writing coach, and CEO of Bird's World Publishing, where we are on a mission to empower 1,000 women of color to write and publish their books so that we can turn their message into a movement. And we are not playing about this goal. The women that you see around this space right now, some of the folks that might hop in the chat. Y'all are going crazy right now in the chat. Yo, I love all of this. Catherine, you are loved. You are loved. And there are so many exciting things that are happening today. And so I am glad that you have your community with you. What's up, Raina? I see you. Oh, we went back. They used to call me Mockingbird back in high school. Um, so that is really great. Look, I'm going to step back and I'm going to let y'all get the opportunity to introduce yourselves. Again, if you are joining us, let us know that you are here. Let us know where you are coming from as well, city and state. And as we introduce ourselves, make sure y'all are also answering the questions that we are posing so that we can get to know one another. This is not just a one-way conversation. We want to bring everyone that is joining with us into the conversation. So, for everyone that is in this room, I would love for you to introduce yourself so everyone has a chance to get to know you as well. Y'all are going crazy in this chat. I love all of this. So if we could go around the room and if you could say your name, pronouns if you choose, where your feet are planted. Thank you so much, Joan, for that gift. And then answer the following question. Who were you before you joined our morning writing group? And who are you now? So again, name, pronouns if you choose, where your feet are planted, who were you, and then you're answering the question, who were you before you joined the group? And then who are you now? So I'm going to go ahead and step back. Whoever would like to hop in there and answer that question first. Y'all, I'm going to go into this chat right now and see what's going on while y'all are introducing yourselves. I'm super excited. Who's going to hop in here?
Okay, I'll join. I'm the shy one, so
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
Y'all are just gonna adopt this. You're gonna take Cassie's line and just like do this every live that y'all are now
I'm,
shy.
I'm I'm really I'm just shy, so I think I'll
Okay.
start.
All right.
My name is Joan, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. My feet are planted in Connecticut. And who was I before I joined? I was a journaler, and I was hiding behind something. I don't know, a veil. And who I am now is I'm showing up. The curtains are open, spotlights on, and I'm ready to share. That's who I am.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for hopping in there. And then also, if y'all didn't see last week's live, when Joan said ready to share, Jano put that to the test and asked Joan to share a piece of her writing with us as she is working on her forthcoming book, Black Woman Breathe. So she's sharing. There is evidence of this. So y'all make sure y'all go check out that live from last week if you haven't already seen it. Who's next? Who's next?
I can go next. My name is Regina. My feet are planted in Pflugerville, Texas. Love to say that. I'm originally from Chicago. Um, who was I before? Lord. Mm. I was not published. I was a poet, but I really didn't understand the work that it took to make my words all that they needed to be on the page. I was also working pretty much by myself, which is a very hard thing to do. You need a community to work in. You need people to reflect back to you who you are and what you're doing and hold you accountable. And that's what I found here.
Hmm. Hmm. I love that. I love how you started off by saying, well, before I wasn't published. And now you are a two-time published poet working towards a chapbook.
Yeah.
So come on now with the accolades. Now, sometimes we like to shy away from who we are. And this is the place where you have the opportunity to shine and we celebrate. Where the pom poms at? I know somebody got pom poms real close. We celebrate. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Shout out to Cassie for having us have pom poms on deck. We believe in happy dances here. So yes, thank you so much, Regina.
I go next.
Let's go.
I think before I start hanging out with you all, you've had a really great impression on me, by the way. I feel that I was a storyteller that had a lot of shame. Uh,
Mm,
I expressed my storytelling through words. I still feel like I'm a storyteller, but I have less shame and more, I think, serious intentions
mm,
as a writer. I claim the word writer. And I'm a creative artist who express myself in not just writing, but in other ways also,
mm-hmm,
unashamedly.
mm,
You all help me with that.
mm.
Yeah.
And we love to see your work. Every time you give us a little more piece of Jano, we just mouth to the floor. Like it has been a journey and I'm so grateful to be a part of it. So thank you so much for sharing
Thank
with us.
you. Thank you.
So, aloha kako, everyone. And it's just so incredible to see you all online. So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Catherine. I am from the Aina and the Maka and the Makai, the ocean, the land, and the sea of Hawaii. And my feet, for the time being, are planted in the Massachusetts area. Who I was before, I was my students telling me to write a book over and over again, year after year. Um,
Mm,
and I have very close colleagues, Dr. JoJo's on this, again, telling me over and over to write a book. But before I came into this incredible sister resistor group, it was an idea, it was a thought, it was a promise, but it wasn't a reality. And to be, 71 pages in um, is something that I am learning to step into, to be proud of, to say, because I also was an incredibly quiet author. I wasn't someone who, unless I was sharing it as an educational part of my curriculum, it wasn't something that I was sharing as an artist. And so
mm,
to be able to reclaim that and to claim it in a space of community, in a space of Ohana, and having, former students, friends, family bear witness to that, that is incredibly special, more than words can express.
mm, mm. Catherine, every time I try to follow up anything that comes out of your mouth, it can never summarize how you make us feel. And I think tonight is definitely a testament of what that means. We have so many people here. There are so many people in the chat. And so I just celebrate you today, and you all will get a chance to see so much more. But before we do that, make sure you all tag a friend. There are folks that need to be in this room that are not in this room, whether they have wanted to write a book, and haven't, whether they have written the book but haven't told anyone about it, whether or not they were told that they don't have a story to tell, or if they feel as if their story is missing from the bookshelves, from homes, from hands that it needs to be in. Like our legacy needs to live on past us, our knowledge needs to live on past us. Make sure you are tagging someone who belongs in this room, because as you can see, when we show up for each other, we have a chance to show up for not just ourselves, but everyone that we touch. There is a rippling effect that occurs when we are all together in community. And so today I am extremely excited. Each week, what we've been doing is focusing on a couple of things. One of the things being igniting ink. Y'all, I released this journal. It is a self guided journal with affirmations, prompts, affirmations, prompts, and inspiration for women of color aspiring authors. Y'all are going to make me cry. If y'all, oh my goodness. There is nothing like having someone else hold your work in their hands, and then to open it up and know that people are reading it, to know that people are journaling and really discovering what they need to discover in order to write their book. I told myself I was going to behave today. And so we kicked off August 1st with the launch of this Igniting Ink journal. And we talked about a lot of the inspiration around the journal and why we wanted to do it, and the community that's been built as we've been on this journey to writing our books. And then what we did is we wanted to focus on each week's topics. So if you haven't already gotten your copy of Igniting Ink Live, make sure you hop on in there and get your copy, because I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. But in the journal, we have a couple of different topics. Each week has their own topic. And so on August 5th, 6th, August 6th, we focus on cultivating healthy habits. That is what week one is about. If you don't have a strong foundation for your writing, moving forward in your journey is going to be extremely difficult, because you're going to be unwavering. You're not going to know where you're going, and you're not going to access the right story that needs to be told. Last week, we focused on overcoming doubt and fear. And so that was an amazing conversation and an honest conversation about where we are as people in our own writing journal, and how honestly the fear does not go away. Watching all of them pull up their books, and I know Regina's is on the way. Before I hit the send button, I was terrified. Thank you, Lisa Nichols. Terrified. I was excited and terrified, right? Because this is the step, but I know how to move beyond that fear so that it doesn't paralyze me. And then today we have the opportunity to talk about unleashing our stories and what that looks like and what our processes look like. So to dig even deeper into what this looks like, I am going to step back and be a part of the conversation like we always do. And I'm going to bring forward our question queen for the night. Okay, if
Oh,
you
wow.
have not been a part of Jano's just universe, whenever Jano asks a question, be prepared, because your world will shake and you will have no there's no question whether or not you're going to dig for the honest answer. So I am excited to be able to share this space with everyone that is here. Thank you all so much for being in the comment section and for being a part of this journey. As the questions are being asked, join us in answering them. So I'm going to turn this over to Jano, and we y'all buckle up.
Everybody. I hope these questions are questions that people who are in the chat feel, like you can answer these questions too for yourself, and you may end up writing a story about the answer. So, how about that? I'm reading. Wow. Okay. Let me ask the first question. Where's the gathering space in your home where stories get told? Where do you tell the family stories?
Ha, I was muted.
Yeah.
When you think we'd learn how to hit the unmute button by now. When I was growing up, mine lived in two different places. We had what was called the family room,
Uh-huh.
and that's where all of the laughs and the stories, whether they were funny or heartbreaking, took place
Mm-hmm.
with family and with friends. It happened in the family room. I would also say that I got to know my grandmother deeply in the kitchen.
Okay.
We used to juice when I was a little kid. So my grandmother had a stroke when I was 8 years old, and she lived until I was 22, being completely paralyzed on the left side. And the only one of the few things that she went back to doing after her
Mm-hmm.
stroke was juicing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was an activity that we just got to do and just be in community with each other, and just hearing her tell stories or telling me how to cut the different produce and put it in the juicer. So, yeah, those two places, the family room and the kitchen, for sure.
I think for me, it was the kitchen was one, and the kitchen was also a place where, when you were little, you were like really quiet so that you could hear what grown folks were talking about. I think the other place that where stories got told was I shared a bedroom with two of my sisters, and so stories would also get told there that we didn't want anybody else to hear
I
Wow.
used to be a storyteller to my siblings, and I didn't remember it until my sister reminded me when I started this journey of working in this writing group and started to feel more comfortable sharing them more widely with different people in my life. And she said, "Don't you remember you told us stories on the stairs?" So there was a set of 3 steps that
Mm-hmm.
was outside the family room.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like a little, I don't know, a little performance area. And I
Mm-hmm.
would tell my siblings stories. I'd make them up as I went, and I regaled in their, their exclamations or their leaning in to see where I would take it. And then I definitely agree that the kitchen, and for me, it was the kitchen when we had an event. So if there was a party, if it was
Mm-hmm.
Boxing Day, I grew up in England, if it was Boxing Day, if it was um, Christmas, any other time
Mm-hmm.
that the grown-ups were distracted and
Mm-hmm.
having fun, when those that were preparing the meal, bringing in the food, and as we say in my house, dishing it out, we
Mm-hmm.
little kids would kind of be by the door,
Mm-hmm.
under the table, just happened to be somewhere until an adult discovered us and would shoo us away. But then you just shoo away for a little bit, and then you find your way back, or you send a different kid.
Mhm.
Wow. Catherine?
I think, I was reading what Jerry wrote, is that, yeah, in the summer months and when it was warm in Hawaii, we would, talk story out on the lanai, which is the patio. And we had 2 huge mango trees in our backyard. And so it would offer the shade. So you could stay out there for hours. The other story that comes to mind is that there would always be stories when there were tidal wave alerts and all the families would head for the hills.
Yeah.
And as a child, it always seemed like the middle of the night, and we're all like having a great time because it's all after our bedtime. But unbeknownst, I'm sure our parents were incredibly worried if they were going to go back and there'd be no house,
Mm-hmm.
because when you live that close to the ocean. But it was the outside is where the talk story happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I'll go ahead and share that ours was at my aunt's house after dinner, at the dining room table, where they would talk politics or family stuff, and they would send us to the basement to play. Sometimes I was roller skating, sometimes I was riding a bike in a circle, but I still was curious about what they were talking about upstairs. And sometimes it would get real passionate. So
Mm.
yeah, after the food was put away, it was those conversations that kids shouldn't be privy to. But in that what you all talked about, I want to ask Heather a question. Heather, what did your grandmother teach you about resilience from her juicing all those years?
there was something about her determination and still doing the things that she used to do before the stroke that brought her joy that she wanted to continue doing.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't necessarily a comment or a story that was told, it was in her actions. Like just the process of moving her from the recliner to the wheelchair, wheeling her through, because we had carpet. That was fun. So like pushing my grandmother through carpet to get to the kitchen, which was actually really tiny, and trying to position her properly. It was a feat in itself. And then us getting the produce, chopping up the produce, cleaning, like there was a process, and she only had one working arm, but she was determined to still do the thing that brought her joy. So I felt like I was able to pick up on her strength just in her own process of showing up and doing the thing that brought her joy.
Yeah. Thank you. Regina, you had two sisters. Did they teach you how to be a girl?
So I have an older sister and I had a younger sister.
Mhm.
And my older sister was 2 years ahead of me. My younger sister was like 3 or 4 years below me.
Mhm.
So my older sister would always, well, she, she was headstrong, let's put it that way. And she would always tell me, I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting this battle for you. You know, I'm going out and staying out late when I'm not supposed to for you. And so I think one of the things that I learned from my older sister was well, there were two things. One was cautionary because she used to get into real trouble with my dad. But the other was just watching a woman with a backbone,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Catherine, I wanted to ask you, as a child, when you all had to go to the hills, did you ever feel like the house might not be there yourself? Did you always believe the house would be there when everything blew over?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think because I was young, I wasn't sure, but I trusted that the adults around me would take care because it was all of the families, multiple streets. And it was one of those things growing up, right? Like you didn't need to lock your doors, that everyone minded everyone's children so that it wasn't about feeling like one person wasn't going to take care of you. It was like everyone's going to take care of you, including when you've been naughty, right? Like everybody had the capacity to scold you. Everybody had the capacity to share great joy. That it was not a distinguishing of immediate family versus, that everybody was your cousin. Everyone older than you was auntie and uncle. And it was, to this day, right? Like at home, there's no distinguishing between if you're blood related versus you just related because you're from the island, you grew up together, and you were raised by all of the, I felt like I was raised by so many different people that had an impact on, why I became an educator, why I stayed being an educator, and why I educate the way that I do from the place of community.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to come back to that because tonight is your night. Joan, those 3 steps that you and your siblings sat on as you told stories, it sounds like you were an early adopter to rap or to free form.
Okay, that's a stretch.
Hold on, has Joe been able to freestyle this whole time and we haven't known it? It's been
We
over
didn't
a
know
year. Do you have like an inner Easter Ray we don't know about?
No, no, no,
You
no,
be
no,
in the
no,
mirror
no.
like just get
No, 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 no. No, I think so. What I do, so memory, I've been reading about and thinking about and trying to write about, and I'm loving that Catherine's going to share about memories. And as I revisit that memory, what I was good at was improvisation because I never wrote these down.
Mm-hmm.
They were stories, and it was a series of and speaking of a woman or a girl with a backbone, the central character was a really badass little girl, and she went up against the really big bully who happened to be a boy. And that was my way of sort of teaching the lessons to my siblings, I guess. I think it was more instinctual than it was intentional, but I remember thinking, okay, how am I going to finish this particular plot twist? How am I going to leave them hanging? Because this was really a way to get them to sort of settle before they had to go to bed, because I'm the eldest of three. And so for me, I didn't become a wordsmith to music. I'm not a rap. I can't even put together any kind of rhymes that are going to make people snap their fingers. But I do believe I need to start leaning more into my storytelling beyond the poetry on the page. And so thanks for that question, because I haven't visited that memory in a while.
Well, who put you in charge of what's right and what's valuable and what's not?
Oh, okay.
The older girl child, and I'd love to hear what Catherine has to say about this, because the older girl child, it was expected.
Right.
So when you think about the aunties and the uncles, it was expected and shared that as the elder girl child, that I was going to be responsible for the work of socializing the youngins. And that meant I had to carry myself in a certain way. There are things I could say and I couldn't say, places I could go and I couldn't go. And while I understood and it was very clear what it was, what I think I gave up was being able to play. I gave up being able to take those stories that I was telling, put them to paper, and then be able to see them turn into a book. And I wrote a lot, but I think that the what superseded that creativity was, you got some stuff you got to do. We need you handling stuff at home because we're busy. We're busy adults. We've got to have 2 jobs. We've got to be able to make it in this new country. So it was clearly outlined by the way they said, you're not taking care of your brother and sister. You're not putting them to bed. You didn't make sure that they didn't break anything. Did you do the dishes? Did you season the chicken? Did you, that kind of thing.
Do you think your writing can make room for your childhood now? Can you recapture some of that?
That's the journey I'm on. It's so funny because the piece I've been working on in this commitment that we're supposed to have, writing coach, to
supposed to have? Hold on, time out. Like you signed up.
Oh, that was smooth, Joan. That was real smooth.
I know that was me.
She wanted to see my reaction.
That was super smooth.
Oh,
yeah.
So the commitment that I have made. All right, make me grow up.
We have made in really making sure that our work gets out there so that it doesn't stay in our journals, stay in our computers, and stay in our heads, is to be able to write down whatever it is we need to write down, but in an intentional way so we can really get closer to our goal. And the younger selves piece I've been working on is definitely that, is really revisiting those youngins and letting them come alive and letting them play. It's a steady process. It's not easy because the adult in me is still tight. So it's the help of everybody here that's like, play a little bit more. There's like, play more before you start to organize. Play more.
Yeah. Well, I've kind of stretched out 2 questions out a lot. So if you all don't mind, I'm going to go on to, you think it's a good time for the author highlight?
Ooh, I think so. And I think, don't we have a little something before the author highlight? Are we doing that before or
Cath-
after?
Catherine, your call. I think we can do it before.
I think we can do it before. Because
I
do you
Yeah.
think
have the
so.
picture?
I think so. Well,
Okay,
I was talking about the memory, what was read this morning.
right.
I love how they're like dropping heavy hints, and I'm like, this
You're
is
like,
something.
huh?
What? Huh?
What?
What's everybody doing? Okay. So one of the things that Heather has said to all of us that I didn't anticipate as a writer is to fill yourself. Not only write, but really feed yourself with the words of other writers. And because of this community, when I read things, I think about myself, but I also think about my fellow sister resistors. So this one made me think of Catherine. Um, and it's connected to my work that I'm doing around memory. And so this is from a great book, Black Liturgies, Cole Arthur
Yeah.
Riley. Just
Yeah.
and this is from the chapter Memory. Cole is quoting Toni Morrison. So this is Toni Morrison's words, but the quote goes like this: Toni Morrison compared memory to the Mississippi River, which has been redirected and straightened out by humans to make room for houses and carriages, but still floods the places it once was. Floods is the word they use, but in fact, it is not flooding, it is remembering. Remembering where it used to be. All water has a perfect memory and is forever trying to get back to where it was. Writers are like that, remembering where we were, what valley we ran through, what the banks were like, the light that was there, and the route back to our original place. And I
Hmm.
just love it. It made me think immediately of what Catherine's stories are really moving towards is finding its way, finding her way, and helping us find our way back
Hmm.
to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we were talking a lot about storytelling and sharing and what does that look like and where do we do that work, right? And so we had the opportunity to access our memories in a way that we didn't even know we were going to access by being together. So last November, we had the opportunity to do a retreat. And a lot of us were in the room for that retreat. Some of us we are working towards building more retreats. And what does that look like? But the beautiful conversations that took place in the kitchen, and this was not planned. We were all in separate bedrooms, and we had a gathering space that allowed us to do the writing and asking of the questions of what we wanted to do with our books. But we found a book in Joan here, right? Regina had an opportunity to get clarity. Catherine listening intently and about to lay down the wisdom. It was coming, right? And the joy that also exists. There's so many memories that exist when we start talking about the kitchen and how we come together and have conversations and discover the stories that need to be told in a book is like no other. And so wanted to be able just to share some of those memories with folks of how powerful a gathering place can be with a group of people and how those gatherings can lead to so much more than what you could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
And particularly because this group started as a purely online group. So that was the first time that we had met in person after almost a year of forming
Yeah.
this community online. So
Yeah.
we were able to, dismiss those stereotypes that you can't form a close community online. Because we remember we got there and we had to sort of text all of our significant others to say that, we had arrived because all of us were answering the same questions, right? You're going where? To meet who? Whose car are you getting into? Have you met her before? You just know her online? And, all of us were going, yep, yep, yep. And then we all got to the house and everybody's phone got out right away. We're like, oh, we got to make sure.
Yeah. Yeah. But it felt like we knew each other for forever.
Correct.
Like I feel like this space, because we come together in the morning to do our writing Monday through Friday, and we spend anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half. First of all, y'all got me good. Y'all got me real good. We've stretched things to an hour and a half because the conversation is so good. We don't want to leave because we are fueling ourselves in the morning in a way that allows us to move through our day. And I felt like I knew y'all for years. And at that point, it had been maybe like 10 months,
Right.
but it felt like forever.
Yeah. This group is like, if you've ever been to therapy, it's like 10x. Um, it's almost like we should get our money back from the therapist. You know, um,
There we have our place. We are complimenting each other. Don't hold on.
yeah. But it feels like it feels like a healing place.
It is.
That's the word. That's the word.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is the word.
Catherine.
Jano.
Catherine is the person I look for every morning.
Mm.
And when
Oh,
she's not here, I'm
Oh,
like kicking the can. Darn it. I love
mm,
everybody else too. I do.
that's
But
real.
Catherine is helping me to become a better person.
Hmm.
And she's reminding me, teaching me how to think and how to let go of the conditioning and to honor the gifts I was born with. And I hear about all of her students and people she's touched, and I say, Amen. Catherine, please tell us about your book.
So I started working with Heather almost now 2 years, almost 3 years ago. And what I was stuck with was I have so much that I want to tell the world. I have so many stories that storytelling was a center point of my teaching, the way I administrate, the way I lead. And bless Heather, she's like, well, you don't have to put it all in one book. And something as simple as that, I think, really helped me focus. And so it's a 3-story memoir, not a whole, long autobiography, because what she said is you just do a memoir series. And so these are the 3 stories that I found myself telling the most when I was teaching, when I was working with the Donovan Ohana that are many of whom are on this call, when I was co-teaching with Dr. Jojo, or when I was doing workshops with Jerry. And so it centers on that, I come from the island of Hawaii, and though I no longer reside there in my person, that my heart will always be, that will be my home. And so the values that I see the world through, that the lens with which I see the world through are sort of, there's, I think, in 3s, right? So it's kuleana, which is that sense of responsibility to the generations that will come after us. And what is the world and the legacy that I want to leave them, that I want us to leave them. And then the second is what we say bipono, which is to do right by right. And so what are the just ways that we need to live in this world? And how do we reach out across the aisle so that difference is not about difference, but it's about solidarity? And at the center of all of this, for me, will always be aloha. And Jerry and I have now done some extensive work about that. So even as you take apart the word alo means face to face, the word ha means breath. And so being present to each other in the ways that we all sort of need to how do we stand together? How do we, I wrote this piece shortly after I exited higher ed, which is, for me, solidarity is the support when the struggle bus runs out of gas. And that's the kuleana, the responsibility, right? Solidarity is also being stealth when resistance is on the rise, which is exactly where we are right now in our world. That's about being pono. And that solidarity is seizing joy both in solace and in community. And so how do we bring aloha? It doesn't have to stay on the island of Hawaii, that aloha can live in each and every one of you. It lives in me because I know that I can't be the educator. I can't be the auntie. I can't be the sister without the center of it being aloha.
Mhm. So I thought you were going to read a little bit for us.
I am.
Oh,
So,
great.
in terms of the three stories, so the first one is about my maternal grandfather, my Gong Chan. The second one focuses on my three grandmothers, my Tai Tais, who were born when I was there were three alive when I was born, and they passed away when I was an adolescent. So I was incredibly fortunate to have them through my formative years. And then last story will focus on my very first trip, and only trip to this day, to the ancestral land of China and me rediscovering my name.
Mhm.
But the section that I'm going to read now is from the second story, and fortuitously, it takes place in the kitchen. And so when Heather and I were going back and forth late last night about, which passage to read, this one sort of jumped out. So, and also just to know, it is because of this group that I am more public about my writing and my artistry. And so my deep love and mahalo to you all for your presence in my life. Joan, Jano, Regina, Cassie, Heather, especially Heather. So this is from the middle of the second story. My Tai Tais would appear in the doorway with their thin gray hair pulled back and knotted in a tight bun at the top of their head. They would be wearing neutral colored cotton brocade cheongsams with simple Chinese cloth shoes. As my siblings and I bounded into the house, stopping only to remove our rubber slippers, my brothers and sisters immediately went to find their similar age cousins to play with. I patiently waited in the foyer in front of the Buddha statue for the grown-ups to gather in the living room to start talking story, watch TV, talk back at the TV, or play mahjong. When the coast was clear, I snuck quietly into the kitchen where my Tai Tais were cooking the day's meal. I often felt like I didn't fit in. I was considered too old to play with my young cousins and too young to converse with the grown-ups. Instead, my Tai Tais and I formed our own kitchen cabinet of sorts. Where they cooked, I assisted, ate samples, and talked story with them for what seemed like hours. Though they did not speak much English and I was not fluent in Cantonese, we always found a way to communicate. It's often said that food can be the great connector and of itself an expression of culture. I remember observing with rapt attention my Tai Tais mixing of flour, sugar, salt, and water in a large glass Pyrex bowls to make the soft, billowing white bao buns, often steamed and stuffed with savory char siu or sweet bean paste. In all, I watched as they never used a measuring spoon or cup, but eyeballed the amount, added a sprinkling of spices, tasting along the way till it was just right. There was no cookbook in sight. The synchronicity of their movements between cutting and chopping at the kitchen counter, lifting lids off succulent dumplings being steaming on the stove, checking on the roast meats warming in the oven, rinsing long uncut strands of yellow lo mein noodles at the kitchen sink, and instructing me sitting at the wobbly wooden kitchen table on how to mix the ground pork and vegetable filling for the crispy gaoji never ceased to amaze me. They never got in each other's way. They never raised their voices. Instead, they spoke in quiet yet firm tones. With the windows wide open and the stove and oven on, the mix of sweet, fragrant plumeria blossoms from the tree outside and a variety of steamed, fried, braised, and baked Chinese dishes filled the air. Though this was orchestrated kitchen prep, I felt as if I was the center of their world. My Tai Tais took turns doting on me, making sure I had enough to eat, and never minded when I took a dumpling here, a steam bun there to try. It was no surprise that when it came time for the family to sit down and share a meal, I was already full. I was not only full from all the food that I had tasted, but also was full from the vivid talk story The sound of their lyrical voices echoed in my ear long after the meal.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
I
What
did that.
what a great
You did
picture.
do that.
And you
You
did
did
that.
do that.
You did.
Oh,
What an amazing
Wow.
This is the first time you've read publicly in this way. You read
I
during
know,
the
right?
retreat.
Whew.
Y'all make sure y'all show love to Catherine if there are lines that resonated with you or things that you saw yourself in. Let her know. This is a step for every person that is here. We are pushing ourselves. We're stretching ourselves in the best way possible to make sure that we have the opportunity to turn our message into a movement, to allow ourselves to be
Exactly.
seen in the material. This is huge.
when you
Wow.
when you write or even read about that, are you do you feel like you're back there in that kitchen?
You know, so for those of you that sort of go, I have a story in me, I don't know where to start, that that passage came from several iterations with Heather, right? So, you know, first I had to take that leap of faith of realizing that this book wasn't going to get written by itself. It wasn't going to get written without me getting some help. And so the pride that we all feel about our writing, about whether as women of color we're allowed to ask for help in this way,
Hmm.
and my heart, I let my heart talk to me that there was some healing I had to do when I left my last position. And in that healing, I decided to focus on wellness instead of focusing on bitterness. I decided to focus on what is it that what were my dreams? And, you know, bless Jonathan and Derek are on this call. They gave me sort of my first sort of nonprofit position upon my departure from higher ed. And it was through having that time and that space that they gave me, that I gave myself, that I discovered Heather through actually another mutual friend of ours, Dr. Eddie Moore Jr. And the connections that this world makes for us when we manifest them. And so what Heather realized is that I'm an oral storyteller. So that it wasn't about me writing this first. What it was for her asking me pointed questions. And then she introduced Otter AI. So then as I was telling her the story back, she was actually having it transcribed for me. She would then send me the transcription after our meeting, and I would read through it. And at first I was like, this is easy peasy. I'll just take the transcription. I'll just take out sort of the uhs and the thus, and then I'll just send it back to Heather. So I did that, and she looked at me and she went, no, in her very loving and kind and gentle Heather way. But she pushed me, right? And she started telling me to create these writing habits, of which when you're an academic writer, that was so out of what I could not think. I didn't know how to do it. So, but the colonized sort of conditioned part of me just yester. So when she said, I want you to try morning pages, I was like, great idea. And she like planned it all out. Like I was going to be on this couch behind me in my office. I was going to, surround myself by these aubergine painted walls that I purposely painted so I could be in this very uplifting space. And so then, when someone goes, well, did you do it? So I was like, okay, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to say yes, because I did it once. Because she didn't ask me if I'd been doing it repeatedly. She just said, did you do morning pages? And I went, yeah. Well, unbeknownst to me, she's doing that with Regina and with Teresa, who's not on here. And it was Heather that just went, okay, y'all be yesing me too much, but you're not making writing progress. And that's what birthed the first part of this group, which was a 2-month experiment to get us into writing habits. And that was January 5th of 2023. And we are now in August 13th of 2024. And the Sister Resistor group is not stopping, won't stop, right? That there's no sorries. sorry, not sorry, right? That this is, has really, so what the passage that I read came out of these master classes, right? It came out of listening to Joan and Regina read their pieces. It's celebrating with them when they got published. It's, again, Heather being this consummate educator, when something doesn't work, she doesn't make you feel like a failure. What she does is, well, let's try this. Well, then let's try that. And to have the teacher, you're to be a teacher and then to have yourself taught is not always easy, because there is ego, because we've been conditioned to think that. And I think this group has really helped me let go, right? Help me really, so that, to be able to go back to that house. That was my grandmother's house, and my Papa and Gungung's house. To go back and to be in those rooms. And I had not been to Hawaii since before the pandemic, right? So I was doing most of this from memory, because it wasn't until March of 23 that we were able to get back home. So it'd been 5 years, which is the longest I've ever been away from home in a long time. And so I was doing this from pure memory. And it felt like each time I wrote, more memory came back, right? Came more of an I remember. And then there becomes more, and again, right, there becomes more conversation, to the point now that, there's 4 or 5 other books, once this one is done, that Heather, Joan, Regina, Jano, you've been part of those conversations, that I have, I eke stuff out, and Heather gives me this look like, that's another book.
Yeah. Oh, that was amazing. I want to hear more. I mean, I feel like I'm under the table in the kitchen and watching people move like a dance, not running into each other. How did you end up with 3 grandmas?
So it was my 3 great grandmothers. So 1 on my maternal side and 2 on my paternal side. And so they came over from China in the late 1800s. And again, they came, without giving the book away, but they took a boat. And they came over with the intent of starting a better life for their families. And so my great grandfathers were not alive when I was born, but 3, and the oldest, Tai Tai, passed away at 102. She fell asleep. And so the level of longevity, but that I remember them as vibrant, active women, right? I remember them being the matriarchs. I remember them scolding my grandmother and my mother in Chinese if, there was something they didn't agree with. And again, you can tell by tone. So even though I may not have understood, and, again, there's a story in there about the reason that I'm not fluent in Cantonese was because of the generation that I grew up in, was that you can't be foreignized. And if we send you to learn the hula, if we send you to learn Chinese, then you'll be foreignized. And so what we want to do instead is we want to make sure you speak perfect English. So, we would get spankings if we talked in the Pidgin Hawaiian, which is a blend of all the different languages in Hawaii. And so it took me years to unravel that level of loss, of what it meant to mourn the raising that I wish I had, that I didn't have, that I had to then, it took me until grad school to fully understand and to work in that forgiveness of realizing that those that raised me felt they were doing it with the best knowledge they had, but it still is a loss, right? And so it makes me treasure that time with my Tai Tais even more, because the language I got exposed to was through their love and care of me, through their, that became the hush, right? Because they told me, don't tell, in their broken English, don't tell your parents that you're in the kitchen with us speaking to you in Chinese. Because if you do, there's a good chance they'll forbid you from coming in here. And how powerful is that, right? And so I, have no regrets for that time. And I know that, again, the educator that I was able to be to the students that are on in this session with us, that to, for me, it really is about that our young people's voices need to be heard loud and clear. They don't need to be quieted. They don't need to be shushed. They don't need to be checked at the door. And so how can we raise educators? How can we raise our young people so that they can fully show up as who they're meant to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Heather, we're going to the hour or just about. I have
We
like
are.
2 questions left.
Yeah, I think we have time for one question, but depending on how it goes, y'all are still with us. So let us know in the chat, actually. You all have been so active and in this space with us. And it has been absolutely beautiful being able to share your sentiments. This is something that is not just for Catherine. This is for everyone that is
Thank you.
here. We have the opportunity to be a part of this experience, which is absolutely beautiful. So if you want one or two questions, let us know, and we're gonna go off of the majority rules, right? We're gonna make this a democracy. What we got here? I'm serious. If y'all don't let us know, we can end this live now.
Well,
And
I want to respect everybody's time. I'll go into one of the questions I had for Catherine. Catherine, you have a tie that you remember or had was your favorite or impacted you a certain way?
I mean, I'm closest to my maternal side, and so I felt that the oldest one, certainly also in that group, elder reigns, and so I think that, for me to really cherish all of them, knowing that they came under great hardship and yet they made a decades long life in Hawaii. And again, what does it mean to, again, take your home with you, because you can't always live in the home that you were raised? And that, how I got to the East Coast is not actually in this book, but it's part of the next book, right? That this idea of, I was told the further you go, the better education you'll get. And that says volumes about the island. It says volumes about everything in between here in the continent, between the island and the continent and coming to the East Coast.
Yeah.
But I feel that, my feet are in different places, right? They're never in one place.
Yeah.
I have, a strong family roots here, but I also have heart roots at home and will always have heart roots in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And so I think that they all had an incredible impact on me. But there's also things I wish I could have asked them, because it wasn't until I got older that I realized you don't always know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sort of forwarded me into education, of how can I be present to that next generation? And then, now that I am considered an elder, how do I embrace the elder that I am with the elder that they were? And and it's one of those things I was just saying to my best friend, Penelope's mom. Hi, Penelope, my goddaughter who's on here, is that, Tish and I were talking the other day, and we said, the last few times we've gone to Hawaii, that what we noticed is that the waiters, the hotel staff, just people that are sort of the people that we buy our groceries from, stop and call us auntie. And it's, I'm like, oh, shoot. Do I look that old? But knowing that it's a sign of respect, but also know that you've moved into that sort of elder sort of status. And and so, it makes me think about them even more, because of, I never envisioned what it would be like to be an elder, but then to now be in that space, and to being referred to as such, that there's a way of, I don't want to run away from it. I want to sort of run toward it and be in it, and cherish what it can bring.
Yeah. So this is going to be the last question. You have now moved to America, to the mainland, and just envision this. You're sitting by a tree. Were you 18 when you came here? How old were you?
I was 18.
18, okay. So envision seeing yourself at 18, but you are walking toward that 18-year-old sitting by that tree, and you bend down and whisper something in her ear, what do you say to her?
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, that, that's incredibly powerful. What I would say to her is, one, I think learning that, you know, the term mainland in and of itself is a colonized term, right? And so that, for us to say Hawaii and then to say when we leave Hawaii that we're going to the continent,
Okay.
because Hawaii itself is also, though, um, part of the United States, but it also, in and of itself, is still a sovereign nation. Another book story. But what I would say to her is, there's a Hawaiian proverb that I live by that I would end every one of my Donovan seminars with, and it's "A'ohe paki'iki i ka halau ho'oka'i." All knowledge is not taught in the same school. One can learn from many sources. And what that means for me is that we don't need to be schooled
Mm-hmm.
by forces that condition us in a building, four walls,
Mm-hmm.
that our education and what it means to be smart is so much bigger and greater than that. And I would tell that 18-year-old that there is a life beyond what you could even dream of in front of you, and to be open and to not, again, to know that risk is a part of the learning process. That I, would say to all my students, particularly my graduate student team, that failure is an expectation with me, because I want you to be able to fail and learn. And I want you to do it because we're going to offer grace. That this is not a hierarchy. This is, islands of centriarchy where we operate as a collective, because I have just as much to learn from young people, versus always feeling like I need to be the sage on the stage. And so I would say to that 18-year-old to be kind to herself,
Mm-hmm.
to focus on wellness,
Mm-hmm.
not just health, and to, again, be open to what the world has to offer.
Wow. Wow.
Wow. Right? Right? Y'all understand who is in this room right now? Like the who we have on the screen behind the scenes, who we have in this chat right now. Like this is a ripple. This is just a little bit of the story. And Catherine, I am just I there was a moment where I was like, oh, I'm about to cry. It's about to happen. Y'all about to see it. Viola Davis, it's not crying. It's about to happen. Like, just so proud of the work that you have done before I met you. This is a testament, like to have all these folks on this live with us is a testament to your impact, but to see your growth, to be in this space, for you to read your words, it's a moment. It is a moment in time that I am going to cherish. And so to close us out, and I would love for the folks who are still with us, thank you so much for being on this journey with us. Catherine is doing the work. And I want to make sure that you all have the opportunity to also follow Catherine and be on this journey with her as she is birthing this book. And when it comes time for pre sales and the release, we want these stories to be out in the world. So, Catherine, I know you have a form that you have created. It is the Hush Stories update form. That if I post that link in the chat, does that work?
I tried to post it, and it said this comment has failed to post. So I don't know
Okay.
why.
We
Can't do
gonna
it.
see. You're not gonna win this. So I'm gonna post it.
Oh no, yeah, you got it. Okay. I don't know
Cool.
why I couldn't.
That's okay.
I love
We're
what
gonna make
Nicole
sure.
just said. She said, Catherine gave me permission to fall on my face. I learned I have power in getting up.
Mm. I
Wow.
Love
love
you,
oh,
all
Nicole.
of this. I love all of this. So
Yeah.
before we hop off, y'all, one, make sure you sign up so that you can get updates on the upcoming book from Catherine Hush Stories. You all just got a small snippet of what this book is going to be, and it's going to be really exciting to see what all comes from this. But before we leave, I want to go around the room, and if we can just give send Catherine off with some words of gratitude for just either being here today and witnessing the story or just anything that you've learned from Catherine, I want y'all to drop some words of gratitude in the chat, and then we can go around the room and do that, and that can close us out for today. Um, who wants to kick? Who wants to kick things off?
I'll
I'm ready
start.
to. Let's go, JNL.
Um, I was just trying to get to why I looked forward to Catherine so much. It's
Hmm.
because she helped me to redirect my rage into self empowerment.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'd like to say that Catherine,
Hmm.
your just the care in which you honor stories, our stories, your family stories, your own stories, is such an inspiration. And you are that model of how to hold sacred what our ancestors are passing on to us and bringing it to the next generation. Your fierce, fierce commitment to future generations is also something that I will always treasure, and I can't get enough of it because it's just need to keep being reminded of why we're here. So thank you for that.
Hmm.
And your intentionality in your speech, in the way that you think about how you move through the world, it's it's it touches me,
Hmm.
challenges me.
Hmm. Hmm.
Your grace.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes. Make sure y'all continue to give flowers to Catherine in the chat. And I will close out by saying anyone could pretend to show up in a space. Anyone can listen to what's being said.
Yeah.
It is not until someone decides to show up for themselves and be challenged and be stretched does the work begin to happen. I thank you for trusting me on your journey. I also want to celebrate you in saying yes over and over and over again. We had a chance to witness what your yes looks like, and that is something that deserves to be celebrated. So thank you for showing up for all of us who are here today, all of us who will be watching the replay and beyond. And I am so excited to be able to continue this journey with you and hold your book in my hand. So the pom poms are here. You all. Yes, you all. It starts. It starts here.
It does. It actually, it very much does.
Very much so.
This was birthed. This was a suggestion to Heather by us
Hmm. This
in the
started
morning.
here.
So
Yeah.
thank
So
you. Halanui Loa for everyone for all of you, Jano, for your queen of questions, and to all the attendees it warms my heart to see people from all different parts of my worlds come together for this live, so that there were folks from my K-12 space, so young people I've known since they were in kindergarten. There were graduate students on here. There was family, godchild. Um, you all have made me a better educator, continue to make me a better educator. I am far from retiring, that the world is on fire and we all need to be present to this work. And so I am indebted and grateful to each and every one of you.
yes, yes, yes. Wow. This has been an absolutely, absolutely amazing session. Thank you all for being here. Catherine, thank you so much for your words and your wisdom. Joan, thank you so much for your stories that are being shared and your vulnerability. Regina, your presence has always brought out the best in all of us. And your words and your space and your courage to do the work that you are doing is always an inspiration. and to the question queen,
Yes.
Jano. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for allowing us to be in a space where we have the opportunity to ponder, to be vulnerable, to access even more stories that are going to go into more books. You all are such a beautiful group, and I thank you all so much for being here. I thank everyone who is here with us today. Next week, we are going to be covering Embracing Your Unique Voice and Vision, week 4 of the Igniting Ink journey. So be on the lookout for that. If you are watching the replay, make sure you let us know that you are here on the replay by typing hashtag replay. We do go back, we do interact with you all. This conversation isn't ending here. And so thank you all so much for being here. And until next time, y'all already know what it is. Make sure y'all keep reading, keep writing, and as always, keep flying, y'all.
Fine.
Bye, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Have a good
Bye,
evening.
everyone. Aloha.
Bye.
Ahui ho.